When I was a kid, there was a heavy snowfall in our village. A black snake lay frozen stiff in our courtyard. Just as my grandpa was about to help it, our neighbor Kyle called out, grinning, "Hey, San! I know you found that black snake in your yard, but finders ain't always keepers. We all saw it. How about handing it over to go with our drinks?" Kyle was 3 years younger than my grandpa and had a particular craving for snake gall. He'd often go up the mountain to hunt snakes for it. My grandpa chuckled and said, "This snake isn't dead yet. Poor thing. I thought I'd bring it inside and try to save it." The words had barely left my grandpa's mouth when Kyle's face soured. He snapped, "It's just a damn animal. Why bother saving it? If you ask me, it'd be perfect with some liquor." My grandpa gave a dry laugh and said nothing more. He took the black snake inside. Even after he went in, Kyle kept staring at our east room. After a few seconds, he picked up a shovel and stepped into our yard. There was only a short dirt wall between our houses. Kyle easily stepped right over it. Kyle stood in our yard, not leaving, like he was waiting for my grandpa. After a while, Grandpa came out holding the snake. It had warmed up and started moving again. He set it on the ground and said, "Go on." The words had just left his mouth when Kyle swung the shovel and smashed it down on the snake's head, cutting it clean off. The body thrashed wildly like a twisted rope, while the severed head jumped around with its mouth wide open. It was unnerving. Kyle laughed out loud and said to Grandpa, "San, I'll take the gall. The skin and meat can be yours." My grandpa stood frozen for a few seconds before saying, "Kyle, what you just did was heartless." Kyle's grin stiffened. He replied coldly, "Heartless? What the hell are you talking about?" Grandpa frowned and said, "Kyle, it snowed more than a foot last night. With this kind of weather, even a person could freeze to death, but that black snake survived. That means it wasn't meant to die, and you just had to kill it. Aren't you afraid of karma?" As soon as Grandpa said that, Kyle's face grew even darker. He shouted, "I've killed hundreds of snakes over the years, poisonous ones, harmless ones, you name it. If karma were real, I'd be dead by now. I haven't even had a cold." Kyle was nearly 65 and in perfect health. Everyone in the village envied how fit he was. Kyle believed his good health came from years of eating snake gall. Grandpa sighed and said, "Kyle, you should bury that black snake and start doing some good. You've got too much killing energy on you." Kyle always reeked of blood from all the snake killing. Even if he wore new clothes, the smell lingered. I could smell it from a distance. Even our little black dog would avoid him. Kyle scoffed and said, "San, you're too soft. Showing mercy to a damn animal? If you don't want the meat and skin, I'll take them home and have them with drinks." He bent down to pick up the snake's body. It was still twitching in his hands. Then he reached for the head, but the moment he touched it, the snake's jaws snapped shut on his hand. Kyle screamed in pain, tears running down his face. He flailed his arm and yelled, "Get off me!" No matter how hard he swung, the snakehead wouldn't let go. He stomped his feet in panic. The snake's eyes were still moving, staring right at him like it was alive. Kyle screamed in agony, trying to pry the head off with his other hand, but the snake held on tight. His son, Larry, heard the noise and rushed over with a knife. He tried cutting the snake's mouth open, but as soon as the blade touched it, Kyle shoved him away and shouted, "Stop! It hurts too much! The damn fangs are already in my bone!" Kyle was a mess. Snot, tears, the works. Larry frowned and said, "What do we do? If this goes on, you'll lose the whole hand." In our village, everyone relied on their hands for farm work. If Kyle lost his left hand, he wouldn't be able to work anymore. Kyle turned to my grandpa, begging, "San, help me. It hurts like hell." His right hand was visibly swelling and turning red. 2 of his fingers had already started to blacken. Grandpa sighed, leaned in close, and spoke to the snakehead. "Old Immortal, I know you hold a grudge, but please spare Kyle this time. He swears he'll bury your body and never hunt snakes again." As soon as Grandpa finished speaking, the snake's eyes visibly moved. Kyle, drenched in sweat, cried out, "I swear, I won't catch another snake as long as I live. I'll bury your body right away. Just let me go." Grandpa added, "Old Immortal, please forgive him." And just like that, the snake's jaws opened and the head dropped to the ground, completely still. It was finally dead. Kyle's right hand had gone black. The bite marks were 2 deep holes, oozing black blood. Kyle stomped his foot in fury. He raised his leg and crushed the snake head under his boot, cursing, "Damn beast! You bit me? I'll skin you and roast you alive!" The words had barely left his mouth when Grandpa said, "Kyle, don't be stupid. Don't forget what you just promised." Kyle sneered and snapped, "That black snake's dead. You think it can still do anything? Besides, it bit me. No way I'm letting it go. I'm skinning it, for sure." Kyle was starting to lose it. Grandpa turned to Larry and said, "Larry, talk some sense into your dad." Larry was about to speak when Kyle slapped him across the face. "Ungrateful brat, don't forget who your father is." The slap left Larry's cheek red and swollen. Kyle might have been a brute, but Larry was known in our village as a model son. Kyle barked at Larry, "Take the snakehead and body home." Then he stormed off to his yard. Larry picked up the snakehead and body and said, "Uncle, that's just how my dad is." "Please don't take it to heart," Grandpa sighed. "Larry, your dad is asking for trouble. Didn't you see the snake's eyes move? It understood what we were saying. That snake had a spirit. You need to talk to him." Larry sighed. "Uncle, you know my dad's temper. I can't control him." With that, he walked off with the snake parts. As he left, I noticed the snake head in his hand suddenly opened its eyes. It might not have been fully dead. Grandpa let out a long sigh. Larry's a good kid, but too damn filial. Just then, Grandma came out of the storage room. She said, "Old man, don't overthink it. Like the saying goes, no words can stop a man determined to die. This ain't something you can fix, it's fate." After she spoke, she picked up a broom and swept over the spot where the black snake died, covering its blood. Grandpa sat on the bench and took a few puffs of his pipe. "You say that, but we've lived in this village together for decades. If something really happens, how could I not help?" Grandma snorted, "You're the only softy in this village." Then she went back into the east room, leaving just Grandpa and me in the yard. He kept staring at the spot where the snake had died. Who knows what he was thinking. That night, as the 3 of us sat down to dinner, Larry suddenly burst in. He looked pale, sweat pouring down his forehead. Grandpa asked, "Larry, what happened?" Larry swallowed hard. "Uncle, come quick. My dad's in terrible pain." Grandpa froze. "What happened?" Larry said. "My dad's entire right hand has turned black. He's writhing on the floor in agony." Grandpa asked, "Did you bury the snake head and body?" Larry shook his head. "My dad ate the gall raw, grilled the meat, and hung the skin to dry." The moment Larry finished, Grandpa climbed off the kang and threw on a coat. "Let's go see how he's doing." Grandma and I followed him to Larry's house. Kyle was rolling on the ground, banging his head against the wall so hard it started to bleed. Larry tried to help him up, but Kyle shoved him away, screaming, "It hurts! I'm dying!" His blackened hand was still oozing yellow pus, reeking of rot. Grandpa shouted, "Quick, take him to the hospital in town!" But Kyle screamed, "There's no time. I'm dying." Then he bolted into the storage room, grabbed an axe, and brought it down hard on his wrist. With a loud scream, ah! His blackened hand hit the ground. Blood was pouring from Kyle's wrist. Larry cried out, "Dad!" Grandpa said. "Adam, go get Aaron, the blind healer." I nodded and ran straight to Aaron's house. Aaron was the village's folk doctor. He also read fortunes. Luckily, his place wasn't far. I brought him back, and he managed to stop the bleeding. Kyle lay pale on the heated bed, gritting his teeth, muttering, "That black snake's not letting me off. I'll make sure it dies." His eyes burned with hate. Aaron gave a cold snort and said, "Kyle, this is karma. If you don't straighten up, you'll lose more than a hand." Kyle sneered. "Get lost, you damn blind man." "No wife, no kids, what do you know?" Aaron's face turned cold. That was the one thing he couldn't stand people bringing up. As soon as the words left Kyle's mouth, Aaron turned and walked out. Grandpa said, "Kyle, take down that snakeskin hanging in your yard. Bury it. Apologize to the old spirit, and beg for forgiveness. There might still be a chance." Kyle curled his lip and said darkly, "Tomorrow I'm heading into the mountains to catch every hibernating snake I can find. I'll skin them and take their galls. I heard from someone in town there's big money in snake gall lately." Grandpa furrowed his brow and pointed at Kyle. "You really are beyond saving." Then he turned to Larry. "Larry, don't follow your father down this path." Larry frowned but stayed quiet. Kyle said, "San, this is my family's business. No need for you to meddle. Just go home." He started shooing us out. Grandpa sighed. "Kyle, this is my last warning. Just live your life in peace and stop digging your own grave." Kyle immediately shouted, "It's that damn snake digging my grave. I won't let it go that easy." Grandpa sighed deeply as we left Kyle's house. It had started snowing again, heavy flakes falling thick. He bundled up and carried me home. Grandma followed behind. Once inside, she whispered, "Old man, I saw black snakes in Kyle's yard." Grandpa said, "Nonsense. With snow like this, they'd freeze to death." Grandma insisted, "I'm not making it up. I saw more than one, poking their heads out and staring into Kyle's yard. Snakes. Don't forget. That house is cursed now." Just then, a fierce wind howled outside, and the room got even colder. Grandpa sighed. "Let's get some sleep." Grandma turned off the light. I lay down on the kang and drifted off. The next morning, the snow had stopped. Grandpa was sweeping the yard when he saw Larry coming out of his storage room holding a sack, like he was heading somewhere. Grandpa called out, "Larry, you haven't even cleared your yard yet. Where are you off to?" Larry froze for a second, then forced a laugh. "Emily's sweeping the yard. I'm heading to town to get some medicine for Dad." Emily was Larry's wife. 7 months pregnant, and due any day. Grandpa said, "Be careful out there. Roads are slippery when it snows." Larry nodded. "Got it, Uncle." Then he headed out. It wasn't until evening that he came back. Carrying a sack that was moving something alive was in there. As soon as Larry stepped into the yard, Kyle came out of the house smiling. "Larry, how many black snakes did you catch?" Larry froze for a moment, glanced instinctively at Grandpa, then said, "Dad, let's talk inside." Kyle's face turned dark. He raised his hand and slapped Larry hard. "You little shit. I asked how many snakes you caught, and you look at old Jack like he's your real dad." Old Jack was my grandpa's name. Larry, looking hurt, mumbled, 5 black snakes." Kyle snatched the sack and said, "Go get a knife. I want their galls." Larry sighed and headed to the storage room. Grandpa said, "Kyle, if you want to mess with your own karma, fine. But Larry's a good kid. Don't drag him into this evil nonsense. Kyle sneered. Larry's my son. He does what I say. Unlike your Tony, always off working who knows where. Been gone 3 years without sending a single dime home. What a useless son you raised. Tony was my uncle, working out of province. He hadn't been home in ages. The moment Kyle finished talking, Grandpa's face went cold and he turned into the East Room without a word. Grandpa rarely got mad except when it came to Tony. Once he was gone, Kyle shouted, "Larry, hurry the hell up with that knife, you deaf?" Kyle was yelling on purpose. Larry came running back with the knife and handed it over. Kyle grinned darkly. "Hold the head, I'll get the gall." Larry nodded and pulled a black snake about 1 meter long from the sack, gripping its head tightly. Kyle plunged the knife into the snake's belly, slid it open, reached in, and yanked out the gall. He popped it straight into his mouth and swallowed it whole. His hands and mouth were covered in blood. It was disgusting. Kyle said, "Next one." Larry tossed the snake aside and pulled out another. This one was much smaller, barely 2 feet long. It thrashed with everything it had, but Larry was strong and held its head firm. Kyle slid it open, took the gall, and swallowed it too. One after another, Kyle killed all the snakes in the sack and took their galls. Larry asked, "Dad, what about the meat and skins?" Kyle said, "Skin them, roast the meat for drinks." Then he went into the East Room. Larry turned into the storage room, leaving the 5 gutted snakes lying in the yard. I edged forward, curious whether they were really dead. But just a few steps in, I saw one of the black snakes twitch, then another. They started crawling, flicking their tongues, even lifting their heads, all looking toward the East Room. The 5 snakes slithered toward Kyle's East Room. It was a low mud house. One of the snakes climbed up the roof to the chimney and slithered right down. The other 4 followed one after another. I stared in shock and shouted toward the storage room, "Uncle Larry! The snakes are crawling into your chimney!" No sooner had I said it than Larry came rushing out. "Adam, what did you just say?" I said. "I saw all 5 snakes climb into your chimney with my own eyes." Larry looked at the ground. The snakes were gone. He frowned and ran toward the East Room, yelling, "Dad!" Just as he did, the door opened. Kyle stepped out, his eyes bloodshot. "Why are you yelling?" Larry said, "The snakes, they're gone. They climbed into our chimney." Kyle turned to look at me. His stare was eerie, sending chills down my spine. Then he barked, "Nonsense! Those 5 snakes were already dead. Go find them!" Larry frowned and turned to me. "Adam, are you sure you saw them go in the chimney?" Before I could answer, Kyle fixed his strange gaze on me cold and slitted like a snake's. Just as I opened my mouth, someone clamped a hand over it from behind. I turned Grandpa. Grandpa gave a forced laugh. "Kids say the silliest things. Larry, listen to your dad. Go look for the snakes." "Right after," Kyle said. "San, you're a good man, but don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong. Your Tony's coming home soon." Then he walked back inside. Grandpa stood frozen for a moment, then snapped out of it. Larry muttered to himself, "The snakes were gutted. They were dead. Where could they go?" Then he looked at me. "Adam, be honest, did you really see those 5 snakes?" I was about to speak again, but Grandpa covered my mouth. "Don't trust a kid's words. Larry, go check again. Maybe they're hiding somewhere." He paused on purpose, then glanced toward Kyle's East Room to make sure no one was at the window. He whispered, "Larry, don't catch any more black snakes. Just live a good life with Emily. Stay away from your dad." Grandpa carried me back inside. He set me down on the heated bed and sat there panting, forehead covered in sweat. I asked, "Grandpa, what's wrong?" he said. "Adam, never go to Kyle's house again, and stay far away from him." I asked, "Why?" He frowned and said nothing. A moment later, Grandma came in. She leaned in and whispered, "Kyle's going nuts in the yard, insists on eating rats, and wants Larry to go find some. You think he's lost his mind?" Grandpa sighed and whispered something in her ear. Her face changed instantly. "Then Kyle's probably done for. But what about Larry?" Grandpa said, "Snakes hold grudges. If we want to fix this, we'll need someone powerful." Grandma whispered, "Should I go to my mother's place and get my brother?" Her younger brother had some skills, but didn't live in our village. Grandpa frowned. "Larry's a good kid. With Tony gone these past years, he's helped us a lot. And now he's about to be a dad. We owe it to him." Grandma nodded. "Then I'll go," Grandpa said. "Be careful on the road." Her mother's home was 20 li away, over rough mountain trails. She said, "Don't worry." And off she went, leaving only Grandpa and me in the house. Grandpa sat on the kang, puffing on his pipe, lost in thought. Around noon, he went into the storage room to make lunch. I was playing in the yard when I heard a noise in the distance. It sounded like a rat squeaking. I looked toward the sound and saw Kyle crawling on the roof of the storage room like a snake, slowly approaching a rat. The rat was so scared it couldn't even run, just let out sharp, piercing cries. Suddenly, Kyle lunged and bit into the rat, chomping down half its body in one go. The tail was still twitching as Kyle tilted his head back and swallowed the live rat in 2 gulps. I was scared out of my mind and screamed, "Ah!" Kyle turned to look at me, his eyes strange and hollow, almost entirely black. Then he slithered into the chimney. By the time Grandpa came out of the storage room, Kyle was gone. Grandpa asked, "Adam, what happened?" I cried. "Kyle ate a rat." Grandpa frowned, picked me up, and whispered, "Don't cry, Adam. Don't be scared. I'll get you a candy ball." He carried me into the storage room and pulled out a yellow candy from the cabinet, popping it into my mouth. It was sweet, and I stopped crying, but the image of Kyle swallowing that live rat kept playing in my head. I asked, "Grandpa, why did Kyle eat a rat alive?" Grandpa said nothing, just kept smoking his pipe. Late that night, Larry came knocking on our door, cautiously and quietly. Grandpa let him in and asked, "Larry, what brings you here this late?" Larry looked pale and whispered, "Uncle, my dad scared the hell out of me." Grandpa frowned and asked quietly, "What happened to your dad?" Larry's face was tight. I got up to pee and saw him crawling on the storage roof like a snake. He was hissing just like a real snake, and today he kept begging to eat rats. I caught 4 for him, and he ate them all. Grandpa sighed. "Larry, did you ever find those 5 snakes from earlier today?" Larry shook his head. "I searched the whole house. Nothing." Grandpa said, "Those 5 snakes crawled into your chimney during the day. They're most likely in your east room now." Larry froze for a few seconds, then said, "No way. My dad's been in the east room the whole time." If the snakes crawled in, he'd have noticed. The words had barely left his mouth when Grandpa stared at him. Larry's face turned ghostly pale, and his voice shook. "Uncle, are you saying those 5 snakes ate my dad?" Grandpa didn't answer. He kept smoking in silence. After a few seconds, he said, "Larry, don't panic. Your aunt went back to her family. Her brother knows his stuff. When they return tomorrow, we'll go check your house. Don't scare yourself for now." Just then, we heard a noise in our yard. Kyle was standing outside, staring into the house. No one knew when he got there. Kyle was smiling, but it was a cold, skin-deep smile. His pupils spun in circles. Larry turned ghostly pale and whispered, "Uncle, lock the door." No sooner had he said it than the door swung open. A gust of cold wind rushed in, and Kyle stepped into the house. He glanced at Larry with cold eyes, then looked at Grandpa. Grandpa forced a chuckle. "Kyle, what are you doing here this late?" Kyle said in a flat voice, "I'm here for Larry." Larry's legs gave out. He stammered, "I'm not going back." He scrambled onto the kang, curling up in the corner, trembling all over. Kyle's face darkened. He grabbed Larry's leg and yanked him off the bed. Larry screamed, "Uncle, help me!" Grandpa grabbed Larry's arm and held on tight. Grandpa shouted, "Kyle, what do you think you're doing?" Kyle's voice was icy. "Old Jack, stop meddling and let go," Grandpa yelled back. "I won't let you hurt someone right in front of me." With a powerful tug, he pulled Larry to his side. Kyle's hands came up empty. He stomped in rage and opened his mouth wide. Inside Kyle's mouth were 5 snake tongues, all sizes, all moving. They hissed louder and louder until the entire house sounded like a pit of snakes. I looked up and saw black snakes coiled along the rafters, mouths open, tongues flicking. I screamed in terror, "Grandpa, there are snakes on the beams!" Grandpa grabbed me, kicked open the window, and threw me outside. As I turned back, I saw our roof crawling with black snakes. Just looking at them made my scalp crawl. I shouted back, "Grandpa!" But there was no answer. The snakes had completely covered the windows. I couldn't see inside at all. I sobbed and ran toward the gate. Before I got there, it opened. Grandma had returned. She brought my granduncle with her. I cried, "Grandma, the house is full of snakes! Grandpa's still inside!" Her face went pale. She turned to my granduncle. "John, do something now." He furrowed his brow and walked alone to the door. The snakes hanging on it hissed at him. He stood still, muttering under his breath. I couldn't hear what he said, but within minutes, all the snakes vanished from the roof. Sweat beaded on his forehead. We rushed inside and saw Larry kneeling beside Kyle's corpse, crying, "Dad, you died so horribly." All that was left of Kyle was an empty, human skin. The flesh and blood inside had been devoured. His skin was full of snake fang marks, black, gaping holes. Grandpa sat on the floor, pale and shaken. He looked up at John and said, "Thank God you came." John sighed and looked at Grandpa. "You need to stop interfering in things like this." Then he turned to Larry. "Kid, your dad messed with the black snakes. He brought this on himself. From now on, you must set up a shrine to the black snake and offer a bowl of rooster blood every day for 49 days to lift its curse." Larry wiped his tears and snapped, "The black snake ate my dad, and now I'm supposed to worship it. That makes no sense." John sighed. "Kyle killed too many snakes. His sins were too great. If you don't do this, the black snake won't spare you either." Larry scoffed. "My dad died bitten to death by snakes. I'm not worshiping any damn snake." Seeing Larry refuse, Grandpa said, "Larry, why are you so stubborn?" Larry didn't respond. He just carefully picked up Kyle's skin and walked away with it. Grandpa sighed and turned to John. "Do you have any other way?" John shook his head. "The black snakes hold grudges. If Larry won't listen, there's nothing I can do. Everyone has their own fate." Just then, Grandma said, "Old man, stop getting involved. I just saw our roof crawling with snakes. It was terrifying. Adam is still young. We don't have time to deal with other people's problems." Grandpa frowned, but said nothing. The next morning, a coffin appeared in Larry's yard. It was for Kyle's burial. While he hadn't been well liked in life, the villagers still came to pay their respects in death. Larry knelt on the ground and kowtowed 3 times in front of the coffin, then got up to light incense. He tried several times, but the incense wouldn't light. There was no wind that day, but still, the incense wouldn't burn. The villagers whispered that Kyle had brought this on himself. Black snakes wouldn't even let him rest. Larry's face darkened. He walked over to Grandpa. "Uncle, the incense won't light. What should I do?" Grandpa frowned. "Larry, if you really want your father to pass on peacefully, set up the shrine and offer a rooster." Larry took a sharp breath, then slowly let it out. After a few seconds of hesitation, he went to the coop and grabbed a big rooster. He killed the rooster, collected a bowl of its blood, and carved a wooden plaque for the black snake. He set up the shrine in the yard, placed the blood in front of it, and bowed a few times. Then he returned to the coffin and lit the incense. It finally caught fire. The villagers lined up to bow to Kyle. Those of lower seniority knelt and kowtowed to him, sending him off on his final journey. After everyone finished paying respects, Larry shouted, "Dad, safe journey." The moment he said that, the sound of Swona horns filled the courtyard. 6 strong men lifted Kyle's coffin and carried it out of the yard in a solemn procession. The villagers followed behind to the mountain behind the village. Kyle was buried at the foot of the mountain. After the burial, everyone returned home. Larry insisted Grandpa stay for dinner and even had the pregnant Emily cook. Grandma was worried about Emily's condition and came to help. It wasn't until dusk that the meal was ready. We all sat down to eat together. Larry's eyes were red as he said, "Uncle, my dad died a terrible death. Everyone in the village is laughing at us." Grandpa patted Larry's shoulder and said, "Larry, don't think too much about it." Larry wiped his tears and took a few big gulps of liquor. Emily said, "Don't drink so much. You still need to bring the black snake spirit tablet into the house." Larry let out a bitter laugh. "That snake killed my dad, and now I'm supposed to worship it? What kind of justice is that?" After saying that, Larry gulped down more liquor. In no time, half the bottle was gone. Grandpa said, "Larry, don't drink too much." But before he finished, Larry stood up, staggering toward the black snake's spirit tablet. Slurring, he said, "A damn beast, and I'm supposed to worship it? Dream on." With that, he kicked the tablet to the ground. The bowl of rooster blood spilled everywhere. Grandpa's face changed instantly. He cursed, "Larry, you idiot! You're asking to die!" Larry, still drunk, said, "I'm not afraid. A bunch of animals. What can they do to me?" Just then, Emily clutched her belly and collapsed, crying out in pain. "It hurts! My belly!" Grandma's eyes widened. "Quick, help Emily inside. She's going into labor." Hearing that sobered Larry up a little. He rushed over and helped carry Emily into the east room. Grandma said, "Go fetch old Megan from the west side of the village. She's the best midwife. And boil several buckets of hot water." Larry ran off to get Megan. Grandpa went to the storage room to boil water. I was left standing alone in the yard. From inside, I could hear Emily's agonizing screams, sharp and painful. I sat on a bench, not knowing what to do. Then suddenly, I heard a hiss. My blood ran cold. I looked up and saw a black snake slithering on the rooftop, heading down the chimney. My scalp tingled. Oh no, the snake was after someone. I shouted toward the storage room. "Grandpa, a black snake went down the chimney." He came rushing out, his face pale. "You sure?" I said. I saw it clearly. Grandpa shouted toward the house. "Old woman, a snake just went in through the chimney, be careful." Grandma shouted back, "Hurry and bring Megan, it's a difficult labor." Her voice was panicked. Emily's screams were growing fainter. Soon, Larry returned with old Megan. She rushed into the room, but moments later, ran back out with her mouth wide open, speechless, eyes full of shock. Larry was stomping in panic. What happened? Megan choked out a sound and finally managed to speak. Emily gave birth to a black snake. Then she bolted out of the yard. We all rushed inside. Inside, Grandma was collapsed on the floor. Emily lay on the bed, soaked in blood. A black snake, thick as a bowl, was coiled around her, trying to swallow her whole. Larry's eyes turned blood red. He grabbed an axe and charged. Larry raised the axe and hacked down on the snake's head, severing it. He looked like a madman, screaming, "Kill them! Kill them all!" No sooner had he spoken than we heard hissing all around. I looked up. The room was swarming with black snakes, covering the walls, beams, and floor. The snakes reared up, their heads raised, eyes fixed on Larry. Grandpa scooped me into his arms and exchanged a glance with Grandma. The two of them slowly backed away. The sight of so many snakes made my skin crawl. I shut my eyes and pressed my head against Grandpa's shoulder. When we reached the door, Grandpa and Grandma pushed it open and fled. Larry's house was completely wrapped in snakes. They dangled from the roof, tongues flicking. Suddenly, boom! A deafening crash. The earthen house collapsed, buried under a mass of black snakes. Grandpa ran home with me in his arms. Grandma locked the door behind us. Their faces were pale. They looked at each other without saying a word. After a moment, Grandpa said, "Tomorrow, we'll gather the bodies of Larry and Emily." Grandma nodded. "There's nothing else we can do." The next morning, all the snakes had vanished without a trace. Grandpa and Grandma searched through the collapsed house for a long time, but couldn't find any remains of Larry or Emily. With no other choice, Grandpa built a grave in the courtyard and treated the ruins as their final resting place. After Larry's death, no one in the village dared hunt snakes in the mountains again. Everyone feared the snake's revenge, and I never saw a black snake again.